The Indestructible Irish Character, Episode 180. The Irish is one race of people for whom psychoanalysis is of no use whatsoever. So said Sigmund Freud. Since I have lived a long life, now 87 years, and because I am Irish and relatively observant, I have noticed certain traits that seem to be common to certain races and nationalities. In particular, let's explore the Irish traits. Let's call them characteristics. Those traits, of course, are generalized and individuals differ. I am now going to focus on what I think makes up the various Irish characteristics. There seems to be some timeless and obvious qualities in the Irish nature. So let's begin by noticing what opinions some non-Irish outsiders have when observing our Irish character. For instance, the words Gael, like Gael, and Gaelic are ancient terms meaning Hibernian and Irish. Those words came into use in the 7th century. Its derivation is from a Welsh word, Gwyddel, Gwyddel, which means marauder. It was the Welsh name given to the Irish raiders on the coast of Wales. So that's one voice from the non-Irish peanut gallery. If you have Irish ancestry, there is something in you that does not bend. You may mistake it for stubbornness. Some people near you probably have that too. It is not stubbornness. It is 800 years of practice, from the first Norman incursions in the 12th century to the final Irish Partition of 1921. The Irish have lived under a system designed to erase them, and the penal laws of the late 17th and early 18th century made it illegal to practice our Catholic faith, to speak the Irish language, to own land above a certain value, to receive an education, to hold public office, or to pass property to a single heir. The entire legal system of British rule in Ireland was built around one purpose: to make being Irish impossible to sustain across generations. But up yours, Brits, it did not work. The Irish went to Mass in fields with lookouts posted on the hills. They taught their children to read in schools hidden in the hedges along their narrow roads. They passed their language in whispers and their faith through back doors and their identity through every possible crack in a system built to seal them out of their own existence. Your grandmother did not learn that kind of persistence from a book. She inherited it from other women who had no legal right to exist as themselves and did it anyway, every single day for centuries. When you find yourself refusing to quit on something that really matters to you, you are not being difficult. You are doing exactly what your bloodline made you do. Here's another outsider opinion on our Irish heritage. A few hundred years ago, Richard Stanihurst, an Englishman, described the Irish this way: the Irish people are thus inclined: religious, frank, amorous, ireful, sufferable of infinite pains, vainglorious, with many sorcerers, excellent horsemen, delighted with warring, great almsgivers, and surpassing in hospitality. The looter sort, both clerics and lay people alike, are sensual and loose in living. They are sharp-witted lovers of learning, adventurous, kind-hearted, and secret in displeasure. And Murphy says, wow. For a last observation of Irishness, let's go back to 1180 AD and Gerald of Wales, who descended from Norman and Anglo royal families. And a simple explanation of what a Norman actually is or was is the following. He would be a French-speaking Viking. So, then Gerald was an English-speaking royal descended from French-speaking Vikings. Gerald was the son of William Fitz-de-Barry, ancestor of the Irish Barry families, and nephew of Maurice Fitzgerald, who was ancestor of the Irish Fitzgerald families, and grandson of Gerald Fitzwalter, ancestor of the Irish Butler families. I'm not sure how Gerald would have enjoyed the fact that his descendants, the Anglo-Norman families of Ireland, were mostly hibernicized by the 14th century. They took the wives, customs, dress, law, and language of this quote-unquote barbarous people in a way the other Normans who invaded England never adopted regarding Anglo-Saxon customs and traits. Gerald's observations of the Irish follows. He saw the native Irish as heathen savages, so it is interesting to examine his biased comments on the Irish appearance, character, and values. On appearance and health, he wrote, "Nature has given growth and proportions to these people until they arrived at a perfect vigor, tall and handsome in person and with agreeable and ruddy countenance. The islanders have little need of physicians, as there are few sick people except those at the point of death." On fighting, he wrote, "They go into battle without armor, considering it a burden and esteeming it brave and honorable to fight without it." On attitude to work and learning, Gerald wrote, "The Irish are a rude people, subsisting on the produce of their cattle only and living themselves like beasts, a people that has not yet departed from the primitive habits of pastoral life. They lead the same life their fathers did in the woods and open pastures, neither willing to abandon their old habits or learn anything new. They neither employ themselves in the manufacture of flax or wool or in any kind of mechanical art, but abandon themselves to idleness and immersed in sloth. Their greatest delight is to be exempt from toil, and their richest possession is the enjoyment of liberty. Whatever natural gifts they possess are excellent, and whatever requires industry, they are worthless." On music, he wrote, "It is only in the case of musical instruments that I find any commendable diligence in the Irish people. They seem to be incomparable more skilled in these than any other people that I have seen." So according to Gerald, we Irish are barbarous, savage, and lazy, with no clear system of power and authority. Also, we are very healthy in our music, and our musicians are very good. Of course, Gerald considered the existing Anglo-Norman systems to be superior and more civilized. He chose to ignore the intricacies of Irish culture and law as captured by the Brehon texts, the Irish love of spirituality and land, the respect for societal status, the love of language and learning, and finally, a love of hospitality and extended celebration. So even our oppressors have mostly positive things to say about our Irish nature. So let me synthesize, in my opinion, what makes up the Irish character. We Irish are generally seen as outgoing, amicable, and more likely to engage in small talk than some of their European neighbors. We are also known to have the gift of gab. We are great conversationalists and storytellers. Witness your favorite podcaster, me. We often use humor and irony to diffuse tensions or avoid confrontations. Another common trait is not taking ourselves too seriously, often making jokes at our own expense. We are known to be hospitable, often treating visitors with immense kindness by offering food, drink, and or help. We also have a strong sense of loyalty to friends and family in our local community, coupled with a pragmatic, resilient nature. I doubt there is any Irish-descended person who would not take pride in that above description. This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my YouTube and podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button. It does not cost you anything, and it helps me to grow my audience. Again, my thanks. Note, some of my viewers and listeners have asked how they could comment on my episodes. There is a note at the top of each episode. It's called Send Us a Text. Click that, and you would be able to comment. Also, former redhead at protonmail.com is my podcast email if you would like to contact me. So it's former redhead, I used to have red hair, former redhead at proton, P-R-O-T-O-N, mail.com is my podcast email. Thank you.